This next lab we're doing is one of my favorite labs. It's the epidemiology lab. So much my favorite that we had it added to the lab manual. This one simulates a epidemic, okay? And so we're going to be studying epidemiology in class, and what we're going to learn is that when an outbreak occurs, so we've had some outbreaks recently, you know, we've talked about Ebola, we've talked about the swine flu and things like that. Whenever there's an epidemic of any type or an outbreak anywhere, small or big, they have to be able to try to trace it back to the original source of where it came from in order to stop it. In some cases, an epidemic might stop on its own, but what actually has to happen in a lot of cases, they have to go to the original source and try to shut it down. For example, there was a cholera epidemic in London a long time ago, and they were actually able to trace it back to one water source, to a well that people were drinking from. So it's really important to be able to follow these patterns. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be simulating an epidemic. So every person, not every group, but every person will have a separate tube. And the tubes will just be numbered 1 to however many students we have in class, okay? So each student will get one tube with their number on it. So what you're going to want to do is when you get your tube, you're going to write the number of your tube both on your lab manual, and also you're going to write the number on your plate. So instead of labeling your plate with the name of the bacteria, you're going to label it with your name and then your tube number. And this is really important, especially if we miss people on the second day of class, we can still use their results. Okay? So your name and your swab number, and the number will be written on the tube. Now for this particular lab, there is one person that will have a contaminated tube. The rest will just have colored water. So what I have here is just some water that I've colored red. Now this doesn't have bacteria in it, but in our simulation, one person in the class will have the contaminated swab. Now we want to be really careful and make sure that we don't spill any of these, because we've had in the past where the only contaminated tube did spill and then we ended up with an issue. We need to make sure that everybody follows the procedure correctly. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a break in our epidemiology experiment, meaning that we can't trace it back. And it always seems to happen that the one person that's contaminated is the one that messes up. Now, nobody knows who's contaminated, okay? It could be you, it could be the person next to you, we don't know. Our goal is try to spread our fictitious disease around the room, okay? So we have to do everything together. So this is a lab we will do as a class rather than in your separate groups. Okay, so what you're going to have is you're really not going to need the Bunsen burner, but you're going to have 2 gloves, okay? You'll have the normal glove that we use for all of our labs, and then you're going to have a, like one of these food service gloves, okay? And you want to take them out of the box right when you're going to use them. You're not going to have them sitting on the table like I do here, because they get contaminated pretty easily. So the majority of the population is right-handed. Those of us that are left-handed just kind of have to struggle through this a little bit. And so what I mean is you're going to put your normal blue glove that you wear for lab on your right hand, and you're going to put this plastic glove on your left hand. The reason for that is most people are right-handed. Obviously, I am not, but they're going with the majority of the population. So before you put any gloves on or anything, you need to prepare your plate. So you've written your swab number on your plate, you've written your name on your plate. So then you're going to have to separate the plate into 5 equal sections. Like I had shown before, draw a Y, kind of a wide Y, and then a line down the middle, okay? So you have something like this. This is horrible looking, but this is what you have, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't even have 5 sections. Okay, now I have 5. So hopefully yours is a little bit more even than mine is, okay? And then number those sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just in the upper right corner of each section, give them a number. This is talking about, I'm touching person 1, person 2, person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the order in which you're touching people. In your lab manual, it has written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you will write the student's name that you touch first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and their swab numbers. So once again, if somebody doesn't show up the second day, we can still use their results, okay? So everybody's gonna prepare their plate first. Nobody does anything until everybody's plate is prepared, okay? And then everyone has their tube, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna have your regular glove on your right hand, and you're gonna put your lovely little food service glove on your left hand, okay? Now, with your other hand, well, you can hold it with your plastic glove. Now remember, I have a glove on this hand. This would have bacteria in it, but there's nothing in it today. So in this one case, I'm going to allow you to set your cap down, and you're going to take the little stick out. Now keep in mind, this may or may not be contaminated. We're not going to flame anything. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the stick out, and then you're going to swab the palm of your hand. You know, feel free to double dip, okay? Because you want to get lots and lots of potential culture on there. We'll put that back, and then we'll put the lid on. Now, everybody has their hand swabbed on the palm of their hand, okay? Now, all together, we're going to start shaking hands with 5 different people in class. Now, you need to cross over through all the tables in class. So don't just shake hands with 5 people at your table. I want you shaking hands with at least people from 4 different tables, okay? And you're going to be shaking with your left hand, okay? Because you're going to be writing people's names and swab numbers with your right hand, because they're assuming that most people are right-handed. Like I said, those of us that are left-handed are going to have to struggle through the writing part, okay? When you go to shake hands with people, so I'm going to pretend my other hand is another person, and this is their left hand. When you go to shake hands with people, this person also has a glove on and has it swabbed. When you shake hands, make sure that your fingers touch the palm of the other person, okay? And so when you shake hands, kind of go like this, introduce yourself, say what you're infected with, and then kind of rub their palm as you shake their hand, because the goal is to get their possible contaminant on your fingers, because then you're going to take those fingers and you're going to touch them to the auger, not the lid, to the auger. So you shake, touch, okay, cover it up, and then go to your next person, shake, make sure you touch their palm, okay? So when you're shaking, you're really touching their palm, and then you're going to touch your second quadrant. Now this I'm all doing with my left hand and not my right hand, because this is the left hand of another person. You got that? Okay? You're writing with your right hand, so every time you shake and touch somebody, you write their name down and you write their swab number down. Make sure that you touch 5 different individuals. And I also want to make sure that nobody stops until everybody is done. So even though you've finished your 5 people, I don't want you taking your glove off and being done, because there may be somebody else that needs to touch your hand, okay? So we will all begin together and we will all end together. So let me reiterate, because we've had problems with this in the past. Shake, touch, write down, go to another person, shake, touch, write down, until you've done that 5 different people. Make sure you are touching, I don't have anything on this glove, make sure you are touching the auger, not the lid. I've had people touch the lid before. It doesn't work that way. After everybody has touched their 5 people, then we will put all of our plates in the incubator, and we're going to put these in the 25-degree incubator, because the bacteria that we're going to use is Serratia marcescens, and it is temperature sensitive, and for it to get that nice red pigment, it needs to be in the 25-degree incubator. So once again, everything I was using was not contaminated with any bacteria, so that's why I kind of took my glove off and threw it here. Of course, in a real life situation, you're going to put your contaminated gloves in the biohazard bag, because we don't know who was contaminated. Your swab, your lab manual says to put it in a biohazard container. You don't need to do that, just put it back in your tube. And when you're done, your tube will go back on the cart, which will go into the autoclave. On the next day, on the following week that or day or week that we do this, you're going to be looking at your plates. We're going to be looking for red color only. If there's any other color in there, that's a contaminant. We're only looking for red, and we're going to count like kind of the amount of colonies or amount of culture that you have growing there. And then we're going to see if we can trace it back to the original person that was contaminated.